We are live on YouTube now.
I think Rajiv sir,
Yeah, okay. Thanks. Hi, guys.
Now we need Colonel Satish is not here. Let me just give him
TorqueTales.
Getting that from YouTube. Satish, if there's any problem.
Why is everybody so quiet?
So YouTube is now live. I can share the link. The chat.
Colonel Sanjay was asking for the link. So
yeah, tell me.
YouTube is live. I can see you on the big screen.
Yeah, great.
Where's Colonel Mallik today?
I think Colonel Jacob is.
Yes, I am trying to get him.
Okay.
I'm checking with him. Any problem.
I can share the link.
I find a few people who are muted. Let me see. It is Yama Babaji and Sridhar Sinha. Can you hear me?
They're all participants actually. So they
good.
will,
I can hear you too.
yeah, so they're automatically muted, but of course they
Yeah,
get to
I understand that.
share
Yeah.
questions. And we'll try and give most of the people a chance to interact today because we have 4 panelists.
It's 8 o'clock. All right. Yeah, it's 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So let's do this.
We'll just wait for a few more participants to join in, people who might just be a few minutes late as it's a Sunday evening.
Yeah, in the meantime, somebody can sing a song.
In the meanwhile, Ashish, I have a small question. I had some pictures and maps, etc., my route, etc., to show. How can I display it?
We will enable you to share your screen, sir, so
Right.
you'll be able to do that. Ashish, can you confirm if YouTube is still live? I think Facebook, the streaming just stopped and it's starting again.
Yeah, Colonel Satish is also online. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, I just found him. Satish, sir, welcome. How are you?
So I think
Rajiv, sir, good evening. Nice to see you again.
Hi, Sanjay.
We have an unfinished conversation. We'll do that after some time, after this is done.
It's still not over.
No, such things never get over.
Okay, now my mic is on, so good evening, everybody.
Nice having you, sir.
Hi.
Okay, if you don't mind, we'll give a couple of more minutes to some more people who are joining in. And we have riders from all of us who are already there. But request your patience for a couple of more minutes and then we will.
That was a beautiful picture.
Yeah, that was from Captain Jaipreet. So we'll probably hold on until 8:05 and then we will
Yeah.
start off, if that's okay.
So actually, I'm the photographer of that picture of Joe.
Oh, is it?
Wonderful, sir.
I did a photo shoot with him and his son.
All right.
His son is also a wonderful writer, Jaiman.
Okay.
सर आप लगता है उड़ती चिड़िया पकड़ लेते हो?
हाँ कुछ शौक हैं अजीब अजीब से. Biking is one of them.
तभी तो हम सब यहाँ पे हैं.
बिल्कुल सही बात है.
Yeah, thank you for that click, sir. That was a wonderful frame, actually.
Thank you. It really looks nice.
And
Nice
you're
picture.
taking a lot of efforts going on the ground and various postures and poses to click that. So it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody who have joined on time. We're just waiting for a few latecomers probably. Another minute and then we will start off. Thanks for your patience.
Are we getting a live feed on YouTube channel?
Yes, Ashish, I think, has shared the YouTube
Yes,
stream.
he did. Oh yeah, so it's coming.
There is also a Facebook streaming that's happening on the TorqueTales channel.
Mhm.
Right. Okay, I think we can sort of kick off. It's 8:05. We've given 5 minutes. There would be people who are joining in. It's a Sunday evening, so through the conference, and I hope a lot of people might also join in. We're also live on Facebook and YouTube for whoever is unable to crack in through Zoom. Good evening, everybody. Once again, a lot of you have seen the TorqueTales webinar previously. This is a very special edition of TorqueTales. We have, some, extremely privileged, and we are extremely privileged to have some, fantastic speakers today from the Defense Forces. And of course, it's it is my privilege to be hosting this session, and a lot of organizers are also extremely excited for this specific session. So just to for the sake of people who are attending this for the first time, I see a few new names. TorqueTales is an initiative to try and get stories out, specifically regarding not specifically to two-wheelers, but automobiles and the passion for automobiles in general, both two-wheelers and four-wheelers. We've done a series of webinars. Of course, these are unprecedented times for all of us. But we thought we should have like-minded people connect with each other. A lot of us are spending more time at our houses, not behind our wheels or our bikes. So we thought that we should create a forum where we can exchange, bring some stories out, and create this collaborative ecosystem. And we've done a few sessions. A few were about people who've traveled around the world in their bikes, sharing their experiences, learnings, etc., so that people who are passionate want to do that can go back and do that again. We did an international riders men. So this specific webinar is part of a three webinar series. We did international riders men last week, where we had a large number of speakers, around 12 speakers from all across the world, from South Africa, from Cambodia, from Singapore, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, etc., share their experiences of how riding culture is in their own specific countries. And we also have international riders women, because we have equal number of not to create a differentiator, but to give equal opportunity for women as well who are riding. We have a separate session for international riders women that's coming up in the coming week. But today is Fauji riders. I will let Colonel Jacob talk about that in more detail. But this is also to bring a different segment, we are all, most of us in this webinar are civilian riders, but I think the love for Royal Enfield, at least for me and for a lot of people, came because of seeing, soldiers, ride their bikes, right? And I think that's my, I'm very young compared to the speakers here, but that's one of the key reasons why I think I took on to a Royal Enfield. And of course, I know there are much older bikes that a lot of you ride here, and so would be a lot of our webinar attendees. So what is how do you keep up that passion while serving for the country, while going through all those circumstances? You still continue to keep your passion. Itself is a very, very is a great experience for all of us to learn, and that's what we intend to do today. Here are some fantastic stories from 4 eminent defense force professionals. And I will let Colonel Jacob, who's already part of our privilege to have him in our club, and have been riding with him for quite a while now. So I would, and he's one who sort of is conceptualized and put this together along with Ashish. So I would request, there's nobody better than Colonel Jacob, because he knows all the participants personally, to introduce them, also give a perspective to this much. He would be able to do justice to that. So I would hand over the session to Colonel Jacob. I would request the participants, all of you are on mute, but since we only have 4 speakers today, unlike last week, we will have time to take a lot of questions, and I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of questions. Feel free to put it on your chat box. We will moderate them and take it to the specific speaker. All have the relevant speakers respond to you on those questions, and you can continue to do that right from when the speakers start talking, or from their profiles if you have anything to ask. We will ensure that you get your opportunity to speak as well as ask your questions to the speakers today. Over to you, Colonel Jacob.
Thank you, Sriram. Good evening and Jai Hind to all our distinguished speakers, our esteemed viewers on Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, and many other social media platforms. So it's an honor to get all these speakers here today, because in addition to being a Fauji, they're all very great riders. And today we are very lucky because we got riders from different segments of motorcycling. We have officers who have been riding on tours. Then we have somebody who's been working on modifications and restorations of motorcycles. Then we have somebody who's on off-roading specialist, which is definitely going to be interesting to a lot of us. So today, the first speaker I will request is going to be Colonel Rajiv Ahluwalia. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can.
Colonel Rajiv is an Indian Army veteran. He is from the Corps of Army Air Defense. He was commissioned into the Army. Somebody said something? No. So he was commissioned to the Army in 1978, and that is the year he got his driving license to drive bikes also. And regarding Colonel Rajiv, what a better way to start riding. He started his first motorcycle was a Triumph Tiger 500 Twin, which he inherited from his dad. And he enjoyed that bike for a few years, and thereafter he shifted to Royal Enfields. And today he is riding a classic 500cc motorcycle. He started pursuing his passion of motorcycling seriously after he retired some years back. And thereafter, his first long ride was probably in 2014 when he took a ride to Ladakh. Thereafter, he has been to many trips, including Lahul Spiti and many other parts of the country he has been. And Colonel Rajiv, like many of us, had his share of mishaps, injuries, but he being him, he always bounces back to riding. So at 64, he is still going strong, very strong on rides. He is a very meticulous planner when it comes to a ride. And he is a very dependable buddy. His son is also a keen biker, and now the father-son duo has become a team to ride with. So, Rajiv sir, we'll be delighted to hear about your ride stories and definitely about your experience with Triumph Tiger 500T.
Thanks, Jacob. Hello, everybody. Jai Hind. First of all, let me be very candid about one fact. I might be the oldest here. Maybe I don't know. Colonel Satish might be somewhere around my age. Mr. Thomas Nanan looks older, but he looks younger also. Yeah. Okay. So I probably am one of the oldest people in this group today, and but I am one of the youngest riders. I started very late. I started very early, gave up in between, and then sort of got back into it because it was my son who sort of inducted me back into riding. So one day he got a bike from his friend and said, "Dad, let's go for a ride." And then there was no looking back. So my first long ride, as Jacob said, was to Leh, to Ladakh, all over. We had both gone together with a group of 7 other officers. The complete planning of the route, the complete administration, logistics was done between the two of us. The highlights of that were that we had catered for almost as much as to repair a puncture also if we have en route, which unfortunately did not work out because the rods that we were using, we didn't try them out and they got bent, and the pump was meant for a car, did not work on a bike battery. So these are the kind of mishaps that happen in spite of our detailed planning. And then after that one flat that we had, I traveled almost about 35 kilometers all alone at night, and then drove back. We loaded the bike onto that Fauji truck. Fortunately, in Ladakh, there's a lot of Fauji support, a hell of a lot of Fauji support. And people are very, very kind, courteous, and helpful, even to the civilians who are riding out there. They give them space, they give them food, they give them shelter, and they give them a lot of technical backup if required. And Bullet is there available in the Forge, so there's no problem of a technical backup also. But don't ask for fuel, somebody's going to kill you then. Okay, so now my first bike, and I'll correct Jacob out here. I didn't get my license in 78. I got my first star and first bike both in 78. When the cost of when my salary was just about $700-800, and the cost of renovation or refurbishing that bike cost me about $5,000. So it was really a beg, borrow, steal kind of a situation. A friend of mine, or we became friends. He was doing bikes. I was living in Arkipuram, and this guy had his workshop in Munirka, and lots of foreigners used to come to him with their bikes at that time. So I found the ideal guy who could do it, and I was riding that bike for almost 5-6 years. Ultimately, when the repairs and became very expensive, the spares became scarce, I had to give it up. And frankly speaking, I regret it today. Now that I have friends like Sanjay, Ghosh out here who do the restoration work, I wish I had met him earlier. Now coming to the rides, the first one that I took was, can I have my screen, please? Can I share some?
Yeah, you can click on the share screen button, Colonel.
Okay, yeah.
Right in the center.
All right.
Have you to select whichever window it is.
Okay.
I will let you know once we see your screen.
Yeah, can you see it now?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so we started the ride from Udhampur, where Jacob's unit was there, and we took our bikes by truck to Udhampur, and then we started the ride. We avoided all the heat of and the Punjab plains and the traffic, and we went via Srinagar, Kargil, and this is a route which everybody probably knows. And we went to Pangong, Somriri, and we came back via Rohtang. Now the best thing about this route, or we were very fortunate to have this route at that time, was that we could sort of how do I go back to my whole screen?
Do you want to stop sharing?
No, okay, I got it. Yeah, okay. So the best thing about this route was that we could get the best of Srinagar and the Kashmir Valley, and the tough side of the route was via Rohtang. I don't know, people are not taking this route nowadays. I think it's more because of the terrorism problems and all. I had decided about 3 years back again to go there. On my 4 years back, on my 60th birthday, I'd wanted to do solo, on this route. But a friend of mine posted somewhere in between, advised me very strongly against it because of the terrorism problem. So a few things that I would like to share with you is one, that when you plan a long ride, I have done 3 of them now. You've got to be very, very, careful, meticulous, go into a lot of details. And in spite of that, things, turn topsy-turvy. I, for one, catered for a lot of things, like Jacob was saying yesterday, right from a thread to tire changing equipment. But because of that, what happened, that my bike became very heavy, and I had a 350 at that time. My bike became very heavy, and at one point I fell. I was very slow, but because of a stone, I sort of skidded, and I fell, and I could not pick up that bike myself. I had to, shout out for help, and fortunately, a couple of local guys, and all these guys had left me behind and walked away, driven away. Not very far, not very far though. But so that was one thing. And the other thing that I experienced was that you need to, when you're going out on a long ride, after about 5-6 days, the fatigue starts building up. So, at one point and fortunately, Jacob was right behind me, and I think I dozed off on the saddle. And almost lost balance, but nothing really very bad happened. So one must take care of that. The other thing is, when you are into the hills, I prefer riding in the hills only. The lack of oxygen also does catch up with you, in spite of all your, having been there for. I have had a couple of tenures in Kargil, and at the glacier, and in spite of all that, your body does get fatigued, and you have to really prepare for it well in advance, which I did. Still, I had to. Maybe the age factor also is there. You cannot beat your age. You might be your will might be very strong, but your body does wane away slowly. The other thing is that you have to take proper rest en route. Make sure that you have proper rest en route. So now let me share my the next this thing slide with you. Okay, so this was the gang of people who went. Now this gentleman that you see on the left, wearing a cap, is one Colonel Sharma. He at that time was, I think, about 64 in 2014, and he was the oldest with us. The problem with this man was, he would get up in the morning and start limping and start telling me to kick the bike, kickstart the bike. So this time when I went to Uttarakhand last year, Himachal last year, he wanted to come along, and I said, I'm not going to kickstart your bike. He gave up. He didn't go with me. So, and then we have our friend Jacob sitting right here, and this is me. And we had a couple of other, Nilesh from the army, and these 3 were our civilian friends. When you go out, give up your habit of smoking, because Deepak and Anil, this guy Anil, and this is Deepak, they both would stop anywhere, just about anywhere where they felt like a smoke, they would stop. And most of the times, Jacob was spearheading the that ride, and I was the tail. I was the tail ender. I was collecting the tail all the time, and I used to be the last one to reach everywhere. So at the Sulphur Springs also, I could not. I could just barely manage to get a soak. Now, what you see behind is the most interesting part. This is where we were. We went for a short visit. These are the these are. Can you see my arrow? Can you see the mouse?
Yes, sir, we can see.
Yeah. So that is the Indian barracks or the Indian bunkers, and the one here are the Pakistani bunkers. So this is that post right below Kaksar Battalion defended area. I was at one time posted there. Okay. In spite of being from the air defense. Now I'll come to my. Okay, this was while entering Srinagar. This photograph was taken by Jacob himself, and he asked me to put up this one only. He says this is the best picture ever taken, and doesn't, although you don't do justice to it, but still, so it is probably. Am I right, Jacob?
Yes, sir, you're right. These photos bring in a lot of memories from the old times.
No, and you also said that you don't do justice to the picture. Okay. This was my next trip to Nilang and Gangotri. We just took off for a heck of it. Ki chalo Nilang hoke aate, and this was the place where I'll just enlarge it. Dharali is the place where we camped with the ITBP people. They are also again very helpful in this area. And from there we took a day trip to Nilang. From Nilang, I was very lucky. I found a very helpful officer who took us another. In fact, we were 4 of us. He took out his gypsy and he took us almost to the Chinese border, where his last post was there. And this was a most amazing ride. It was probably, except for the Fauji vehicles, I don't think any other personal vehicles had ever gone there. And I think it was one of the most amazing areas. The roads were so smooth and beautiful, and since it was all along the valley only, the roads were in a very good shape. And we had to cross a couple of glaciers also, a couple of nalas also. Okay. So this trip was almost about 5 days. We had one halt at Uttar Kashi, and then I think we went on straight to Dharali. Next day we went to Nelong, and thereafter we went one day to Gangotri, and then we were back again on the 5th day. I think we reached back the 5th day. Now this was I don't know how many of you have done it, but this was one of the most amazing and a tough ride. We took about 15 days. Jacob, please let me know when I'm running out of time, because I think I'm.
Sir, we will get back to the details once again.
Okay.
After others have also spoken.
Okay. Okay. So just to cut it short, this was the route that I took for Laol and Spiti Valley, and I did this route twice. In fact, once with my wife and another couple on a Scorpio, and the second time I did it on my bike with a couple of friends. Okay. So this is my son and I. One of the Sunday mornings, we just decided to go for the parathas to Murthal. So this was also about almost about 4 years back. I was having a 350. He was having this bike. The bugger's after me too. I don't know whether he's connected or not. He said he'll be connecting. But since I'll be showing him the video, he's been after me to buy the best of the bikes available today. Worth 20-30 lakhs, so that he can inherit it from me. But I'm not agreeing to it, because I realize that I've got very little shelf life left. So, why should I spend it on him? Okay.
We have a long way to go on the ride. On the rides, you just started with it.
Yeah, sure. Just kidding. Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you very much, sir. It was very, very motivational, and we came to know of some new routes which we might like to explore sometime. And the ride we did together, of course, that brought in. I mean, we can keep talking about it, I think, for the entire day. There are so many things. And you mentioned a few people's names. and there are some of them are here, I think, in the group, in the Zoom today. So meanwhile, I'll request our next speaker. Is Colonel Satish Mallik is whom I'll request next. Colonel Satish is a big inspiration to all of us. Now, he is a living example of how not to let circumstances overtake you, and he always remains in control of his life. He first learned to ride on his father's Lambretta, graduated to a SD once he got commissioned into the army in an infantry battalion. Thereafter, he is SD, and he has seen many places wherever he was posted, and forward bases. He has been riding all over the place. Then in 1999, as we know, the Kargil war happened. Colonel Satish was very much in the front line, and unfortunately, he lost his left leg in the line of action. Yes, that had a direct impact on his life, and definitely he had to give up riding. But the inspiring fact for us is that 10 years later, he was back on saddle with his prosthetic leg, and thereafter there's been no stopping for him. It took him another 3-4 years. In 2014, he took off on his first long ride of a week duration, and after that, he has covered most of India, Bhutan, a bit of Nepal, and South India in detail. He has done a lot of rides, and on his favorite Thunderbird 350. Now, Mrs. Satish joins her husband in most of the rides as a pillion. The husband and wife team is a formidable riding team. Apart from Fauji and riding, Colonel Satish is also a talented photographer. So we would like to hear your story and how you got back to riding and things like that. Thank you very much, sir. Please, yours. Mic is yours, sir.
Oh yeah, I got it now. Hello everybody. Well, I mean, almost everything about me has been said by Jacob, so there's hardly anything else that I can talk about. Yeah, I'll keep it within 10 minutes. In fact, I really don't have much to talk about. It started with, as Jacob said, my father's Lambretta scooter. Somehow my father, he was never fascinated with riding a two-wheeler. He bought a Lambretta just because he had to commute to office. But then, most of the times that Lambretta would be lying at the garage, and my elder brother and I, we would have a field day on it. So actually, that was the first thing that we started enjoying doing on Lambretta. And then, like all young children, Lambretta, Vijay Super, Priya scooter, Bajaj Chetak, Bajaj Super, everything. I mean, you name it, Rajdoot motorcycle. So I have done everything. And then my elder brother, when he started earning, he bought a Hero Honda, or maybe in Suzuki, and then later on Hero Honda. So for a long time, whenever I would go home on vacation from NDA or IMA, I would be riding his in Suzuki or Hero Honda. But let me tell you that even these scooters and bikes that I'm talking about, I have done extensive riding on these two-wheelers. On Priya scooter, I have done one way at least about 500 to 600 kilometers for a 3 days ride to go to some place and come back. So even my brother's Hero Honda, taken it to Nepal, done that. So my village is on India-Nepal border in Bihar. So Nepal was a familiar country. We have family in Nepal. So many times we have done that. So it's not that what brand of two-wheeler I had. For me, it was a two-wheeler. And, many a times it would be, even if it was a bicycle, I would do that. I mean, I have done, on a bicycle, I have done hundreds of kilometers. So if it has wheels and it is moving and I am on it, I am enjoying myself. So this is what the philosophy was. And 1987, I got commissioned in Army. So Rajiv sir, I'm much, much junior to you. So I was in field. I mean, I was deployed on the line of control in Kashmir, so there was no question of having a motorcycle. It's only 1990 that I bought my first Yazdi motorcycle. And with Yazdi, I did extensive touring of the northern Himalayas, I would say. So right from your Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, and also to Uttarakhand. These areas I did a lot of riding on my Yazdi. And well, then 1999, Kargil war started. I was again in field at that time in operations. And on 26th of May, I just stepped over a mine somewhere and my left leg was blasted off. It was amputated below knee. And then, you know, these are the times in your life when, in fact, I have had many such times in my life when you have the question of which way to go. You know? So there was, okay, my leg is gone. Perhaps I can't do much now. Forget about riding. Can't even walk properly. But then the other option which I chose was, okay, my leg is gone, but my body is still intact. And more than my body, my head is still intact. You know, at least from here, I was not disabled or handicapped in any way. So, you know, in 2000, after getting my prosthetic leg, I wanted to come back to, somebody told me, you know, motorcycle would be too heavy. Now you should go back to scooter just for commute. So I bought a Bajaj scooter, Bajaj Super, I think. Somehow, I mean, I have got nothing against Bajaj scooter. I mean, I have driven Bajaj scooter for quite a distance for a long time. But this time I was not really enjoying it because I was already hooked on to that Yazdi motorcycle. So I was not enjoying this Bajaj too much. So, you know, maybe I kept it for 1 year and then I sold it off. And somehow, somewhere in my mind, this thing was always there that I have to get back to riding. I think I can. So, you know, one has to try it out. So I tried it on somebody else's motorcycle. Will I be able to shift gears or not? And I realized that, you know, a little bit of practice and I can still do that. And with that, in 2010, I purchased my Royal Enfield 350cc Thunderbird Twin Spark. And since then, I have been riding everywhere. And 2014, a small group was formed of amputee riders. Actually, there's another very accomplished rider. He's a very good friend. His name is Satish. He's a prosthetic surgeon. So I was actually his patient initially. And so he gave this idea that we have a couple of amputees who ride motorcycle. Why not make a team? So 2014, we made a team of 4 amputee riders, and that 2 Faujis and 2 civilians. So there's one young civilian amputee in Nagpur. His name is Ashok Munne. He's a very known adventurist. So he organized the ride. And there's another amputee from Mumbai. He works for Indian Railways, Sanjay Patil. His right hand above elbow is amputated. And you can imagine how he's still riding a motorcycle. So 4 of us, we formed a team and we did our first long ride. That was Ride Vidarbha. So around Nagpur, we were riding for 8 days. That was in the month of May, a very crazy time to do a ride in Nagpur region. It's very, very hot at that time. So it was quite a big challenge, especially one particular day when we were doing off-roading, all of us. In that kind of heat, it was a big challenge. We were almost dehydrated. And since then, you know, in that other people also kept joining in. So I was telling about CN Satish. So he himself is a rider, so he was there with us. So that was a very big confidence building measure for us that the doctor is riding with me. So if something happens, he's always there. And there was another girl, Ambili Kutti. She is a military nursing services officer. She was also riding. So you have a doctor and you have a nursing officer also with you. And another very ace rider, his name is Abhijit Day. He is still serving in army. He and his son. So they also joined in this group. And since then, all of us, we have been riding together. And every year we make it a point that we do a long ride. So 2014 was Vidarbha. 2015, we went to Northeast. We did part of Assam, Nagaland, Manipur. Then after that, 2016, we went to Ladakh. 2017, Abhijit Day and his son, Rhythm Day, they planned for One India, One Ride, in which they wanted to touch the 7 geographical extremes of India. That is the northernmost, easternmost, southernmost, westernmost villages, the central village, and also the highest point in India and the lowest point of India. So I joined Abhijit and Rhythm halfway. I joined them in Bhopal. So we did central India together, we did western India, and then we did southern India. So in southern India, we did the southernmost point, of course, is Kanyakumari. But there are not many people who are aware that there is a lowest point in mainland India, that is Kuttanad. It's near backwaters. And that is about 7.5 feet below the mean sea level. So we touched that and we came back. 2018, we did extensive ride to Bhutan. 2019, there was no group ride, so my wife and I, we did a ride to Coorg. And I live in Pune, so Pune to Coorg, and then we came back via Kerala. So that was a very interesting ride I've had. And this year in February, we went to Kerala for a very short ride. That was more of a photography ride because I wanted to do a photo shoot of a particular festival which happens there in February in a small village. So we did that, and that was just about 5 days ride that we did. So these are the long rides we have done. And besides that, I have also done many short rides, especially with my wife as a pillion. For most of these long rides also, she comes with me, sitting pillion with me, very spirited, very energetic. So that is always, a very good feeling that the family, 2 of us, we are riding together. So this is what my photography journey has been till now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for inspiring us with all the stories. There is a lot to learn. In fact, when we go through this webinars, we understand how much we don't know, how many people are out there who are doing much better than what we think we're doing. And when you took the name of Abhijit, I remember to tell here that there are so many more riders who are very, very active and done much more. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, most of them are still serving. So they are not free to come out and, express, the things in public domain.
You're right.
Yeah. One day, yes, we will hope to get a lot of them into this. We will get a chance to interact with many of them. So next, viewers, next we have a different, an officer who's doing a very different thing. I'm going to talk about Colonel Sanjay Ghosh. Colonel Sanjay is logged in from Calcutta, and he has been passionate about the way the motorcycle looked and performed from a very young age. He has been tinkering with bikes even before he was eligible by age to join the Indian Army. He joined the Army in the 80s and retired recently. He's also from the Corps of Army Air Defense. Colonel Sanjay is a very talented and is known for his design and performance modifications on motorcycles. Being in the Army, as we all know, is very, we'll be very constrained to interact with outside world or in the industry. However, he has been instrumental in conceptualizing this cafe racing models of Royal Enfield. And he is a vintage motorcycle enthusiast. It's his passion. He has restored many of the old vintage bikes over a period of time. And after his retirement, now he is concentrating on his venture, Ministry of Biking, in which he is working closely with some leading international motorcycle brands. He is also a founder member of Gopalpur Hawks Motorcycle Club. Apart from his riding, he is also a music enthusiast. He is also a dog lover. So we would like to hear about your biking stories and about your restoration projects and more. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Jacob. And I must say that I'm very humbled by the narrative of Colonel Satish. It's amazing. So what you do, and then we feel that we should be doing much more. It's such an inspiration. And also from what you said, the names that you took, and then Colonel Ahluwalia, he took the name of a Triumph twin, Speed twin. You took the name of Lambretta, the Yazdi Jawa. Now, these are iconic things, these are iconic bikes. And these were my inspirations for doing, restoring old motorcycles and two-wheelers. And the spirit that you showed, that yes, it just has to be something that moves on wheels and the experience is yours, is also my story. So I can so relate with you, Satish, in this. All right. Now, before I get into this, something which has always been on the back of my mind, and I have been trying to tell anybody that I meet who is on a two-wheeler, is the ride with your gear on. It's not only the helmet, everything that suits the word of a gear, you must wear it. It's never too safe, to be on a two-wheeler. It's never too safe that you could just ride off without wearing your protection pads, whatever they would be. Wear them. Because if something happens, then you will only kind of blame yourself. Now, moving on from there. Uh, when I was very young, I used to come across people who were experimenting with motorcycles. The Royal Enfield was there as Enfield India, and it was amazing to hear when the bike was kick-started. There was this very inspiring and intriguing gearbox of the Jawa, which you kick-started, comes back and becomes a gear changer. Now, these things were intriguing to me. And I remember one very old teacher who used to come in a Maxless 500cc. Now, all these things remained in my mind, and schooling done and everything done. And then when I came into the army, I had my 100cc, but I was traveling all the while. We were in one corner of India, posted, in the run of Kutch. I found that the way to reach the places to see was through a two-wheeler, because there would be places where a four-wheeler cannot go. So yes, it is always, that your will to travel, your will to experiment and figure out things, will to see, and what you want to actually do with your time is very important. That was one phase. Now, 20 years down the line, I figured out that this thing has to be done with something which is more personalized to your own ride. I mean, you can define your ride, no matter what it is, not about the number of cc's that you're riding, but whether you've been able to define that. But if you're able to define that, you'll have a pride, not the ego, but the pride in what you ride. It could be, designed or manufactured by somebody, but important is that you can define your ride in the manner that you ride it, in the way that you go, in the places that you visit, and also in the journey per se. Now, these things were thoughts, and slowly and steadily, I could crystallize them together. And then I started looking at available motorcycles and four-wheelers also, where this thing can be incorporated. And then I figured out that for city riding, you cannot have these very large and heavy two-wheelers. You need to have smarter rides. You need to have smarter rides. And from there on, it is not about throwing things away. It's not about adding, this and that from the panwala's shop. No, I'm talking about something which has to be a part of the production line, but which has to suit your ride. It doesn't mean that you have to throw, a flap cover or do some kind of a stickering job. No, something more real, something that will sustain over a period of time, something that you can relate to. And this eventually inspired me to design bikes. And I was concentrated more on where the CG of the design would be. Because if you are comfortable writing it, only then would you be able to define it. Now, that was one. The second thing was that when you go about doing this, you obviously get attracted by shiny things that come onto, and they say that, okay, these pair of indicators will make your bike look nice. But I don't believe that. I believe that if you're able to do something with the production line of those bikes, a group of bikes, let's talk about the Royal Enfield. So there are different models of Royal Enfield that you, let's say, want to do something with yours. I would say that, okay, if you want to change your pair of indicators, take something from another Royal Enfield of the same time and put it into yours. That's at the most you should be doing. So there should be a kind of a threshold of your modifying and designing. Then you have to be very aware of pollution and sound pollution. So it is not good to see in some cities where, I've seen photographs of they're driving a road roller over a 20 odd silencers of different bikes, just to give an impression that we don't want noise in our city. We should not, as riders, get into that bracket. We should be aware. We should be people who should be able to spread awareness. And that's when, in Calcutta, when I met Ashish and Jacob and everybody who were aware, who were people with a lot of awareness, and they were spreading that across the country, across 200 motorcycle clubs, group of riders that collectively would be more than lakh of people, and inspiring them and making them aware of how important it was, the environment for us. And I think those are the things that really drive me on when I find people around me who are doing this, who are spreading awareness through their riding styles. All right. Now, having said that, having talked about defining your ride, it's a very broad thing. We'll not go into details now, but then I can take on questions later on this. Quickly touching on to, the old motorcycles. And okay, so why do we do that? Why do we pick up the junk and restore it and make them new? It is because we respect them. That's it. We respect those engines. And we want to catch on to the marvel of these kind of unique machines that were made many, many years before even we were born. And we want to see that working in front of our eyes. We want to go through that process of, the process through which they made that engine, because that's unique. And it's from there that the engine that I ride today comes. So these are my setting considerations. And therefore, when I restore, I don't restore off the cuff. I restore exactly in the manner that, it would have come out from the production line in those days. Having said that, I don't know whether Colonel Jacob would be having a few photographs I was able to share with him.
We have, so we'll try and put it up sometime at the end. I'm not able to share it now somehow, but we'll do it.
It's all right. There's no issue. But suffice to say that anything that you should be doing should be inspiring to you first. And if it is, whether you're doing it for a professional gain, whether you're doing it for any other purpose, it will not be as good if it was not inspiring. So I would say that, and I would say that you should ride safe all the time. Wear your gear, and you must not take risks. Two-wheeler driving is not easy. Is not easy. If you're wanting to take a long ride, do some short rides before that. Come to know your body, come to know your engine, come to know your chassis, come to know exactly how the whole thing works. And then only you should be able to. That is where what Colonel Ahluwalia was trying to tell us all this while. It was so amazing to hear what he was saying. And Colonel Satish, the way that he has been doing the rides, it was amazing what he was saying. Having said that, I would end here, Jacob, and I think there are other speakers you would like to take on.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks for throwing light on your projects. In fact, yours is an art of, is a work of art. We'll have to see. I have a few pictures. We will try and upload. Somehow it is not going from here. I'll request Ashish if we are able to do it. Otherwise, we'll share it definitely. On TorqueTales, we'll definitely share it, and details we can share there. Meanwhile, sir, we will go over to our next speaker. From all this all those discussions, now we are going into some hardcore action. That's where Captain Jaipreet Joshi, popularly and favoritely known as Joe, I'll introduce him. He is also an ex-army officer. He is into off-roading and dirt biking as of now. If you watch him, he and his bike is mostly seen in the air and less on the ground on wheels. His photograph also was coming on screen once in a while. So he has had his share of touring stories, but then he moved on to a different segment of rallies and trail riding. He is into competitive riding and is the first runner-up in 2019 RE event. He is also a third place in Retd Himalaya in Group C in 2018, if I'm not wrong. He believes in sharing his experience and skill to anyone who seeks it. He and his son, who is also a rider, Colonel Mallik was mentioning about it, runs Moto Ibex, the first off-roading school in North India. I think as late as today morning, he was there riding his bike. He is, apart from riding, he is a martial arts expert. He is the founder of the company called FitComp, an organization that trains corporates in security, self-protection, tactical combat, and crisis management. I will request Captain Joe to share your experience and advice, especially related to off-roading. Over to Joe.
Thank you so much, sir, for this nice platform, and a very big hi to all of you there. We've heard a lot of stalwarts here, so I'm just in the process of learning. Well, I started riding way back in 1985 when I used to, my father also had a Lambretta, and then we would put the, that small scissors and try and open it and, run away, me and my younger brother. And once the fuel would finish, we would come coolly and park it there, and the father would never come. And we would say that you never get your tank, topped up, and it always gets dry. So those are the times, we had a knack for driving and riding. So primarily, I've also done a lot of touring. So I'll just quickly tell you, I've sort of divided my my talk into 5-6 parts basically. First, it'll help you also from whatever my experience and whatever my wisdom is, that the first is the journey. The journey is like I started commuting. From commuting, I got on to touring. From touring to adventure touring. From adventure touring to off-roading, and thereafter into rallies, raids, and competitive motorcycling. And that's how has been my journey so far.
Captain Josh, your voice is breaking a little in between. So if you can do something about it, it's okay. Otherwise, we can understand.
All right. I think I need to speak a little slow. Now is it okay?
It is much better.
All right. So first thing which I would like to talk about is that it is not the bike, which you own. It is how much of this bike you own. All right. Having 5 or 6 bikes in your backyard or maybe in your garage doesn't mean anything if you're not connected to your bikes. And if you love your machine is also going to love you back. Last October, I had a massive accident. I was zipping on the trails and I was riding at, I think it was 76, my speed. And my GoPro action camera is, most of the time it is on when we're practicing. And when I was riding, I had a high sider. High sider is when your rear lifts up, and the bike toppled because there's a lot of boulders and I was trying to overtake and go zip past. I broke my clavicle, the collarbone, 3 ribs. So a total of 4 ribs broke. And my doctor said that riding can, be in the back burner for now. And at least till January, there is nothing happening. After that, we're going to take a call. But instantly after a month, I got back on my bike and I started riding. because biking is a sort of, it detoxifies me, it releases such good, feelings within me that I really feel very good. That is the type of riding I do, and that's the sort of connect I have. And I very, strongly feel that if you love your bike will love you back. And when I say that, it simply means that, you really have to care for your bike. I come from a Japanese company. I worked for Hero Honda for 8 years. And there is a concept in Japanese working ideology which says cleaning with the meaning. So even when you clean your bike with your own hands, you come to know of a lot of flaws, a lot of things which might have happened to your bike, and you can, you can sort of rectify them. And you like what Colonel Ghosh was also speaking about. It is first feeling it and then absorbing it and then knowing. And your bike will always tell you when you're riding that there is something wrong with it. Recently I had a wobble in the front and I felt that maybe the air pressure is less. And before the ride began, I realized that the cone set had gone loose and the front wheel was, wobbling. I immediately rectified it and I was all right. So it is very important to listen to your bike, and it'll always speak back to you. And another thing is talking about my off-roading experience. So I've done Ladakh as it is, yes, as part of the touring. But if you've seen the Loser Gramfu stretch, I had done that in one of the fastest timing when I did the raid, and also recently the Sajova rally. I don't know whether the raid is going to happen again or not because of whatever reasons. But then our practice continues. Every Saturday, Sunday we go, and whichever day of the week, if we try and get some time, squeeze out some time, we go out and practice. So our rides are not necessarily leisure rides. We sweat it out and we practice. So that is the genre of riding we are into. That's my son, Jayesh. Jayesh, if you can just wave your hand. So that's Jayesh, and both of us are a great team. We ride together, we share a smoke, all right? And we ride together. Yeah, Colonel Ahluwalia was saying, I think should not smoke, and I agree with you, sir. But then at times, yeah, it gives you a sort of, a relaxation, and you feel.
Hi everyone, Jayesh here. Really nice to meet all of you, and some great stories. Thank you for letting me be here and be a part of this.
Okay, another thing is that it is very, very important for, us as riders to be physically and mentally fit. All right. I see a lot of people just focus on the motorcycle which they're going to buy without understanding their own self. First, you have to understand who you are, what is the type of ride you want, what is the machine you're looking at, what is going to be your ride, and whether you can handle that 350 kilos or 400 kilos of bike. What is the saddle height? All those considerations have to be, come before you pick a machine. All right. So that is a very, very important. For that, fitness is very important. We always make it a point to loosen up. Like a lot of people talk about, the speakers before me, that the riding gear and the level of fitness. So it's very, very important. The next thing is the riding gear. I have never compromised on the riding gear. I've always gone in for level C. Level 2, armor, whatever I use, and the best of the helmet, because I have seen crashes, and I know unless until you are in the right gear, you won't even get time to say sorry to yourself or anybody else. And when you're in pain, it is between you and your pain. Everybody else comes later. So I think it makes a lot of sense to be. So we ride very fast, but we don't ride rash at all. We are not fast on the roads. We don't say zoom, zoom, zoom. We never do that on the roads. We follow the traffic. We follow the speed limits. We don't go beyond that. Once in a while, yes, it happens. I'm not saying I'm a saint, but then we earnestly and we consciously make efforts not to, do things which are unlawful. So I think as bikers, it is very, very important for all of us to understand that it's not something like it's not a rebel tendency. It is something, it's a zen of motorcycling, which we must try and connect. Thereafter, another thing is we need to learn to work on our bikes. If we can listen to on a bike and a bike can speak to you and we are able to understand what she or he says, it is very important to be able to carry out basic minor repairs just in case it happens. And for that, it is very, very important to be in sync with your machine, most of the time, and learn a little bit of stuff which you can do around the bike. And lastly, there are no shortcuts. If you really want to excel, if you really want to do well, especially in this domain of competitive motorcycling, age is just a number, and it does not matter. A lot of people who see my video, they say, "Ye bahut tez aa raha hai," when I take off my helmet, who's this old man riding so fast? So, and a lot of people have posted on my wall, and a lot of places I get to hear that. So that's not important. What is important is you should have confidence in yourself, and confidence is only going to come, when we practice and have machines in the right frame of its usage. I think that is all from my side. Just for the information of you, I have 3 motorcycles, and I was just making a list of my motorcycles. So I started with a Java 71 model, and I now, when I reminiscence, when I look back, in I think 1985, I had modified that bike looking at a Thai, magazine, a motocross magazine, and I had designed it that way with raised mudguards and the sleeve removed of the front fork to look like a dirt bike. I painted with that. उस ज़माने में fillet आता था, मच्छर मारने का fillet spray. So उसमें Maruti red paint को mix करके I sprayed it. I've done it with my own hand. Java had a huge, a big fuel tank. So we cut it from the center and brought the fuel tank closer so it looked sleeker. So those are the type of things we did then, notwithstanding and not realizing then that someday I would actually be off-roading. India mein off-roading is still not a very popular sport, but yes, it has picked up in last 5-6 years thanks to FMSCI and a lot of other organizations who are actually supporting it, and I think it's a long way to go. And also one last bit on my combat training, my martial arts training, it really helps you, stay very agile mentally when you're riding, and gives you a nice control over your bike, and it helps you avert a situation before you get into it. I'll tell you one incident. It was last week. We were riding, and there was this. I was doing something with my change pedal, gear change pedal had bent a little. So I was sitting on the ground and I was just mending it. So there is this rider who took a jump and he came. I was on a KTM 200 Duke. He comes and he almost, he just whisked past me. And my first response was to turn around and lift my riding boot and leg so that just in case it comes and hit me, I could do something about it. So I think these reflexes help in fitness and mental and both physical fitness is very important for me. So thank you so much. If you have any questions or anything to do with what I do, and if I am able to answer your questions, I would be very happy to take it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Colonel Joe, Captain Joe. And thanks to all the speakers. I can see a lot of love which is pouring in the chat box. And there are some questions. And meanwhile, we were trying to put the photographs. I have a few photographs of Colonel Sanjay Ghosh, the bikes which is restored and all. We are trying it. Meanwhile, I'll hand over to Sriram, if you can take out the questions and ask the respective speakers.
Sure. Thanks, Jacob. So friends, please feel free to share your questions in the chat box. I will start with, as a continuity, I think we have a question about your off-roading training center in the north, Captain Joe. So I will also try and share the image up here while you can take up that question and maybe talk a bit about your training center and what you do there.
So we are based out of Gurgaon, and as I told you, we ride every Saturday and Sunday. We go out in the morning. The ride starts at around 6:30, and we carry on till about 9:30, 10, 11, depending on the weather. Recently, it was too warm and humid, so we couldn't be riding for long. But then, yes, these are the timing. So we practice 2 days, and we have some enrollments. There are people who are riding with us. So we're based out of Gurgaon. You can connect with us, or you can connect with J-Man. That's what he calls himself, Jayesh. And you can connect with us. We'll give you the information. And it is based on our training is very practical and it is based on, you know, whatever experience. See, I'm not saying I'm a Ricky Brabeck or somebody, but whatever little experience I have of having participated in 2 raids and 3 Sajoba rallies and few other, state level rallies and motocross events. We have some bit of information to share, and it can definitely make you a better rider. You may not get into off-roading per se, but I think Indian roads, quite a lot of them are as good as off-roads only. So still it'll help you, control and maneuver your bike in a better manner. So you can connect with us directly. We are on the Instagram, we are on Facebook, or you can have a numbers from the moderators here, and you can get in touch base with us.
Great. So I think we'll just take a look at the questions that are coming up here. Meanwhile, probably, Colonel Sanjay Josh, we have a question for you. How do you go about, picking, let's say, for your own, do you do restoration for your own? I understand that you do that for your own as well. How do you go about picking which bike? Do you go pick up, what comes to you because of availability, or do you actually go hunting for a specific model in mind? How does that process work? If you can take us through. Meanwhile, I'll also share some pictures of some of your bikes that are there. I've asked you to unmute as well so that you can go ahead and talk.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you see, in India, you don't have much choice, because when it goes to restoration, you have to decide as to whether you want to restore, a vintage or a classic or a contemporary bike. And most people don't intend to discriminate with that, and they kind of restore whatever they can. I intend not to do contemporary biking for restoration. I would intend doing lifestyle, changes, getting lifestyle changes to that. Am I audible? Yeah. To the contemporary bikes, I prefer doing, the vintages, because I learn a lot from there. I can only say that. Now, this is one, is a M20 of 1939. This is the BSA M20. This is, okay. Now, this is from, I'll give you the history of this specific bike. All right. So this is from the 69th Recce Battalion of the British Army. And this bike was commissioned there. Afterwards, it had a tour into the African deserts. And if you can see the Vox carburetor on the tank of this bike, that tells you as to that bike. Now, when I restore that bike and bring it here, I maintain the tank, the census number of 12424. This is embedded into the bike by an embossing, and I just had to drag it and put in the tank exactly the way it was. But I did away with the Vox carburetor, because the Vox carburetor is basically to segregate too much of dust in an extremely dusty terrain like the deserts. In this case, it was Calcutta, so it was not necessary. But in doing that, I learned so much regarding British engines, regarding this bike, regarding how this bike was suited to the war conditions. A lot of these bikes have been done that. Okay, and so this bike, the way I got it, the history of this bike, if you see, is a Bengal number, West Bengal number, WGU 5027. Now, this bike I found in the backyards of somebody in the Bhutan border, from where I picked up. This bike was lying there since 1965, never ridden there afterwards. Brought it, and it took me several years before I could get all the parts I had listed to start the restoration process. So you don't need to rush with the restoration process. Give it time and bring the bike into the domain where you can actually do a reasonable job of it. And then you can catalog your bike. And this whole process is very inspiring. Yeah. So this is my very humble attempt towards restoring an M20. It's a 5 horsepower, 498 cc side valve, single cylinder BSA of the second Volvo vintage, restored exactly in the manner as it perhaps would have been manufactured. And thank you for showing this photograph. Okay, now, and similarly, this took me, okay, now this bike was prior to this restoration. This is again a Bengal number, but this is a more recent bike. This is a classic. That was a vintage with the girder fork and stuff like that. And this one is again a BSA B31. This is again a bike which I got in Bengal, but because of my you know my job, I was posted in Shimla, wherein I got all the parts together. So I utilized my hermitized life there. It's very cold outside, so office back and restored this bike and kept it. I generally keep my bikes inside my house because it's a part of my life. That's the way I treat them. They're like my children, and they share a very important space in my living area. All right. And similarly, I couldn't share certain photographs of G3L matchless, uh, 3HW Triumph, and presently I'm working towards 5T, 500cc speed twin Triumph. Again, huge inspiration from Colonel Ahluwalia for that. So basically just trying to give a project as to how restoration can be done as a learning process, and also to achieve something and get huge amount of satisfaction doing that you have been able to bring a dead machine to life in the manner that it was when it was born. So I think that's a wonderful thing to be in. It's very pure and it is very satisfying. All right. So yeah, it's a kind of a meditation, this whole exercise for me.
Thanks, Colonel. Where in Kolkata do you get them restored? Is a question from somebody. Is it done with somebody, or can you explain a bit of that? I think there are people who are interested in knowing about it.
Okay. You see, since mine is purely a hobby, I don't intend to drive that hobby through somebody. So I take several years to restore one bike. Okay, I get the parts, I open the parts up. By now, I know as to how maybe an ML carburetor works, so I can take it off and put it back together. I didn't know that before, maybe 20 years back, and I learned it. So that is the learning process. And if I don't push myself through this, then what's the point of my restoring? I try to do everything myself, except for certain things which are broken, certain things which I can't get, and then certain things that have to be manufactured, maybe small little parts. Well, those I take the help of a lathe machine around the corner, but that's about it. And they are not important parts. If they are important parts, I would import them. I connect with certain companies in UK and other places, and of course in India also. There are people in Calcutta, there are people in Indore, Delhi. Well, I don't know how reliable they are, but you do get these parts, and you can put them all together, check them out, because eventually if you put wrong parts into your bike, what's the point of your doing it? So the huge amount of research that goes in. Now that needs to be understood. Every part of it, every part of a bike is a system. And you have to research every system to know why it is there, because it's a good reason for everything to be there in the way they are. And you have to put it back in the way they are, not the way that I want it. That's a huge challenge. It's very inspiring for me. I try to do most things myself, except for those things I told you.
Thanks a lot, Colonel. Thank you. Very inspiring indeed. We have a question, for Colonel Satish as well. So, what was, a lot of, us, we have, a lot of riders who meet with accidents, who, have roadblocks coming in, right? And what was the motivation for you? I know you touched upon that quite a bit, but was there a process, to keep, if you can share some thoughts about how did you keep your willpower going, especially from this case. I know in your case, very, very privileged to hear your story, the way you came back, etc. I wish you, continuing your riding, very inspirational. But talk us through that. I think, that's a story that all of us would like to, hear a bit more on. You quickly kind of brushed aside that, saying that I came back, but, if you can spend some time on it, a few minutes, that will be, really, really inspirational for a lot of people who might, we've had, riders who've gone through injuries and cope back up, etc. What's, if you can share some thoughts around that.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Well, that's something I can talk in detail for. Uh,
Oh, have we lost him?
Yeah, I think there was a network issue there. We will try and get him back. Let me just check if he has. Colonel Satish, are you able to hear us?
No.
No problem. While he's coming back, we also have a question for Mr. Colonel Rajiv as well. But Colonel Sanjay, just to continue there, I think you touched upon sourcing spares. But how difficult has it been? I mean, do you travel around just for the spares? Seems like you spend years restoring a bike. What's your is there a process? Is it just because of the years you've spent, you have contacts? What is the secret to that? A lot of us, I think, at some point would love to do what you're doing, at least with, not to the scale that you're doing, but at least with one or two bikes that we've all loved. What's the secret sauce, one secret sauce, if you had to say, to land up on good space?
Okay, I can tell you one thing overall, that whenever you're doing anything like this, whether you're modifying your bike or restoring an old machine, you must know your limits and you must have knowledge. Now, these two things are very important. You must have knowledge of yourself and knowledge of what you're attempting to do. Okay, now, after you've got that in adequate quantity, then you go ahead to open the bike up. Again, it's very easy to open something up. It's very difficult to put it back again there exactly the way it was, or in some other form, So you need to document everything. It is meticulous, writing it down, take a copy, take a pen, keep writing down. And I can talk about myself, make small sketches of the way you find it. And then you can refer back to it exactly in the manner. There would be certain nuts and bolts which turn the other way. You would forget that. This time you wrote it down. So it's very important to, document what you're doing at any point in time, because every day you're not in the same mood. And being in the army, you are here, you're there, all your parts are in one loheka box and it is there up in the shelf and you wouldn't know when to bring it down. You don't have the time. But then when you have that copy with you, you can flip through it. You would know, okay, you've got these few things you still have to get. All right, the nozzle has to come. Or perhaps, the smiths is not working properly. You're not getting the right dry for the smiths. And whatever you're getting is a Royal Enfield part which will not work, which would be a shame if somebody found out. And it is certainly a shame if I would put it there. So you have to do that. And there are certain things that you have to manufacture yourself, which are, a very important part of the bike. But you are just not getting it because they're just not made. And let's say, for example, a logo where BSA is written. To that extent, you can do a little stickering and all that. But beyond that, no. Everything has to be original. The price of your effort is how original your stuff is. I guess that is the inspiring part of it. That is the challenge. The challenge drives you on. So it's not about the volume of how many bikes you have been doing, because just one bike can keep inspiring you for a very long time. That's what I do.
Thank you, Colonel. I think we have Colonel Satish Mallik back. Colonel, are you able to hear us? Let me unmute you.
Yes, I can. I can.
Okay, perfect. I'll let you continue, sir.
So, sorry, so there was some internet issue that I went offline. Well, I was talking about getting back to riding after an injury. So one thing which was always there, that doubt is there. You have just lost a leg, and uh, at that time I was still on crutches. I had not yet got my prosthetic leg. So that doubt always lingers whether I would be able to do something or not. And then I really didn't have too many, or not even a single, I would say, another amputee whom I could take inspiration from. I mean, till then I had never seen any amputee doing a motorcycle ride. So that doubt was there. But one thing which is there, I mean, it's inherent in my personality that I don't give up anything without trying it out. I have to try it out to, either I succeed, or if I don't, I'll leave it. So I'm not that headstrong that I have to, go after it for lifelong. So I remember I was still in hospital in Pune, and they had manufactured there's something called a trial limb. They just want to try out the fitting, and then there's a very heavy wooden block in that. So I had got that, and the same evening, one of my ex-commanding officers, he had come to look me up in his Fiat car. So he came, and I was on the bed, and I just showed him that I have got a new trial leg, and I wore it. I showed it to him, and just out of instinct, I just said, "Can I see your car keys, sir?" So he gave it to me. He never ever thought that I'll do something with that. So I said, "Sir, let's go. I want to try out. Let's see if I can drive or not." And he was, "No, I'm not coming with you. With this leg, can you drive?" I said, "Let me give it a try. I mean, unless I try, I really won't know whether I can drive or not." So I took his keys. He was standing, he was watching me, and I drove his car a little distance, and I realized that, okay, I can do it. It's not impossible. I can do it. It may need some practice, but I would be able to do that. So this is how it started. Then it came to riding a two-wheeler. Somebody, an army officer's wife in Pune, she lent me her kinetic Honda scooter. I started riding that. The first question was, will I be able to control that weight or not on my prosthetic leg? And I realized that, yes, I could do that. I could do that. So that was second step. Then I told you I purchased a Bajaj scooter. So idea was, can I put it on stand, because it didn't have a side stand? Can I put it on stand? Can I kick the bike, kick the scooter start? So, everything gradually, one by one, I kept trying. And then eventually it came to the Royal Enfield. It's a heavy bike. Will I be able to handle it or not? So again, I tried out somebody else's motorbike, and I realized that, okay, I can handle the weight. So I did a little bit of riding. But when it came to buying a bike for myself, a new Royal Enfield, I bought this Thunderbird 350cc. Now the thing is, this has gear on left foot, like a regular bike. It's not that bullet in which you have gear on right foot. So the challenge was, will I be able to shift gear or not? Because on a prosthetic leg, you see, you don't have the ankle joint movement. So you cannot press your toe and you cannot press your heel like this. So that was the challenge. Will I be able to do that or not? And that's where my experience on Yazdi, it came handy. So in Yazdi, if you remember, or Java, the same lever that even Sanjay Ghosh he was talking about, the same lever acts as a kickstart as well as a gear. So to put it on first gear, it used to be to pull it up, and with a lot of flourish with the heel, we used to pull it up like this. So I would do that with my Thunderbird. I would use my heel to press it down, and again I would use the crook of the heel to pull up the gear lever. So that worked for quite some time, and I realized that I was riding quite okay. There were instances at times when I realized that when I was trying to pull up the gear lever with the crook of my heel, my leg would become a little loose, as if it's going to fall down, because every time I'm pulling out on it. And that's when another rider, he suggested to me, why don't I use the reverse thing what normal people do? That is, I press the toe pad with my heel, and then I bend my knee a little extra, and I press the heel pad with my toe. So this is how I ride. Anybody who has seen me riding. So it was to put it on first gear, I use the heel, and then second, third, fourth, fifth, I use my toe to push down the heel pad. So you have to figure out what is the best way. I mean, how you can do that. It's not that everything has been hunky dory. It's not that I haven't had injuries. It's not that I haven't fallen down. I have fallen down. I have fallen down with my wife on pillion also. So that's part of biking. But yes, that would no serious, no major injuries till now. But every fall, every challenge, it teaches you something, and I take that as a lesson learned, and I move forward. And since you see the pleasure is of biking, so you take all these challenges along with the pleasure, and you continue biking. So that's how I have been doing till now.
Thank you, Colonel. Really, really inspiring. I wish you that all of us wish that you continue riding. This is,
Thank you.
we tend to take little injuries too seriously. I'm not in a good sense. We tend to sort of get pulled back because of smaller injuries. But I think this story will inspire a lot of us. Whenever we are riding and when we take our bikes. Thank you. Very, very privileged to have you, sir. Meanwhile, I'll try and get Colonel Rajiv Ahluwalia here. There is a question for you, sir. Of course, I would like to know about the process of your meticulous planning, but there is also a question about what bike would you consider owning today? I know that you have a Royal Enfield, but you also probably might be thinking of something else. So, what is the bike that you would probably own? Do you keep track of the new ones that are coming in? I think that's a question that one of your audience has. If you would not want to answer that, you can probably talk about the planning that you generally go through when you're going about. I have asked you to unmute you, sir.
Okay. Okay. Can you hear me all? Yeah.
Yes, we can.
I'll take the last question first. Which bike I would like to go for? Well, the next target on my radar is the Karakoram Pass. I was really inspired to see some videos which were posted by the there's a army guys riders group called the Saddlebone Warriors BW, and these guys had there were a few army officers and including girls, young lady officers who have been there, and that is now the next thing on my radar. I don't know whether I'll be able to make it or not, whether I'll get the permission to do it or not, and once I go in for the physical fitness, whether I'll find myself fit enough or not, because it seems quite tough. So for that particular reason itself, I'm thinking of going in for a Himalayan. And since I am a hardcore Royal Enfield fan and buy Indian fan, buff also, I would say that I do not intend going in for any foreign bikes. I do keep in touch a bit about them, but I would still go in for a Royal Enfield, and the bike on my probably I would like to buy is a Himalayan.
Great, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot for that. We'll just come back to you on the other question, but I have a question coming in for Captain Jaipreet. I think it's an extension of what we spoke to, Colonel Satish on. But it's regarding you briefly talked about your shoulder injury and you bouncing back to riding. We have a rider, Solomon, who rides most of our rides. He does really long rides and really fast ones. He had his shoulder rotor cuffs injured. And he's back to riding now, but he would like to know how full recovery can be achieved and how did you go about your injury recovery that fast from a serious injury? That's a question that we have. Captain Jaipreet, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah. Solomon, it is about, first is the mind. Mind is very strong. So if you tell your mind, all right, I have to do it, that's the first thing. You have to set a mind in order that, yes, I have to do it. So the will, and the second part is the skill, that how do you do it. So I may not know the right exercise for that, which you have to consult, doctor or a good physiotherapist who can help you in that. But at the end of the day, I think I know my body more than the physiotherapist, because he asks me, so it is me who's communicating to him. So it is first it's me who knows where it is, and then it, passes on to the physiotherapist or the doctor. So as long as you know the point of, for instance, my AC, if you understand that, there is so this is my injury, if you can see. So I got 22 stitches here. So I broke the clavicle and it got operated and broke 3 ribs. Ribs is not a problem. So no plaster, no nothing. You just have to, eat healthy. When I say eat healthy, try and have a lot of protein and have a balanced diet. Try and have a lot of supplements initially, may not need it later, but some supplements are good. Organic Nutrilite supplements are good, which I always trust. Nutrilite is good, especially now during COVID-19 times. The vitamin C, the vitamin C's and Calmac D, these are very good. You can have them. Bone soup, if you are a non-vegetarian, bone soup or bone marrow soup is very good for recovery process. And also exercises. I continue to exercise even when my shoulder was in the process of recovering. Doctor had told me January, but if you see my photographs on the Facebook, I'm a combat trainer, and I was doing workshops in Bangalore for KPMG, a lot of other organizations in Bangalore. I was doing White House and Whitefield and Devi Kempegowda and Devi Kavoda, what all, huge distance traveling and doing workshops with my shoulder drooping down. I would use one hand, but then I would do it. So I think it is, I think for me, it's the mind over the body that works. And also continue to exercise. The moment you give rest to your body, it'll be like a bike. The moment you park your bike for long, it will not start. The battery will go down. There will be some problem with the alternator. Fuel mein kachra aa jayega. Same happens with the body. We are akin. So if you keep using it, you will not throttle up with the body. You don't throttle up completely. Go slow, but go steady. And I do everything. I do Superman push-ups. I do jumping push-ups. I do clap push-ups. I do kettlebell. I do everything. If you see my videos, you see me on Instagram, Captain.Joshi. I'm not just saying it for the sake of it, I'm doing it. And yes, you can get. And my accident happened on 12th of October. I was doing workshop in Bangalore on 15th of October, and 16th and 17th I was in Bangalore. 19th October I got my surgery done. 20th I was home. Yeah. So good eating, continue to exercise, and stay healthy. That's vitamin D is important. In India, just for the information of all, in India, the lat and long, which we are on, the latitude, longitude on which India is, the best time for the vitamin D is not early morning. It's of no use. You should only go out in the sun after 11 o'clock till 3 o'clock. That's the best time for Indians to get the vitamin D. And we are the lowest on vitamin D in India because of the pollution and the greenhouse effect and all that. So the best time is 11 to 3. You don't have to go out for so bike ko hi saaf kar lo 11 baje ke baad, shirt utar ke. That will help you.
Yeah, Solomon does that without his shirts quite often. We have a very famous photo of this. Anyways, thanks a lot, Colonel. Really, really inspiring again. I think we've overshot time by 30 minutes, but I think this deserves it. We could not have covered 4 such great stories in an hour. Thank you everybody. We will have an official vote of thanks from Colonel Jacob. Colonel Jacob, over to you. Please take over. Thanks.
On behalf of all of us here, all the viewers, all the organizers, I want to thank Colonel Rajiv, Ahluwalia, Colonel Satish, Mallik, Colonel Sanjay, Ghosh, and Captain Joe for sparing your time, and giving us your valuable time here today and sharing your experiences. It's a great learning. 1.5, we planned for 1 hour. We went to 1.5 hours plus, but I think a day would be less to hear your stories. We'll come back to it later at a suitable opportunity. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And on behalf of TorqueTales, in fact, on behalf of TorqueTales and the organizing group here, I want to thank all the viewers here who's taken the effort to log in, and those who are watching us live on Facebook and YouTube. So thank you very much for being there. And thanks a lot for the love which you've shown. I can see a lot of messages coming in the chat box. I want to thank TorqueTales. This is the idea of Ashish Singh. He's here. Thank you for giving this platform. In fact, one challenge comes an opportunity. In fact, we are not able to write because of the COVID, but that is probably bringing us closer without a restriction of time and space. We are now sitting together. We had a few other talks where we connected with international riders. Another talk is coming up on 12th of July. We are connecting with lady riders from across the globe, and a lot of things are happening. So thanks to Ashish and thanks to TorqueTales. Ashish, would you like to say something?
Yeah, thanks everyone. Colonel Satish, your story is truly inspiring. And when the Colonel Rajiv sir without Capt, he make a salute. So just a salute for you. So I can do that one. And thanks to Rajiv sir, Jaipreet sir, everyone. And Sanjay sir, we will meet you again when we resume our ride. So thanks everyone for the joining today. Thanks.
Thank you, sirs. We'll log out from here now. And good luck to all of us. See you soon.
Bye. Good night.
Night, sir.